All right, so today we're going to be doing adding and subtracting like fractions. We will be adding rational numbers with common denominators and subtracting rational numbers with common denominators. So like fractions are fractions with the same denominator. So for example, the key concept here says to add fractions with like denominators, you add the numerators and write the sum over the denominator. So for example, if I have 2/8 plus 3/8, I would simply add the numerators, 2 plus 3, which would be 5, and put it over the denominator of 8. Okay? And you can see from the number line, 2/8 plus 3/8, if we added them all together, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 5/8. All right, let's look at an example. We have 5/12 plus 3/12. We got to write it in simplest form. Well, 5/12 plus 9/12, we have the same denominator, so we simply just need to add the 5 plus 9, which is going to give us 14, and put it over the denominator of 12, so we would have 14 over 12. Now we need to simplify that. So to simplify that, we need to turn that into a mixed number. Well, 12 goes into 14 one time with a remainder of 2. And remember, we put the remainder over the denominator. So that's 1 and 2/12. And then we could simplify that 2/12 down to 1/6 because 2 goes into 2 one time and 2 goes into 12 6 times. So that's 1 and 1/6. Okay? All right, let's look at another one. This time we have 3/8 plus a negative 7/8. So when we have 3/8 plus negative 7/8, we have the same denominator. So we're just going to carry that over. And then the numerator is 3 plus a negative 7. They have opposite signs. So we subtract 7 minus 3, which is 4, and keep the largest sign, or keep the sign of the larger absolute value. And the absolute value of negative 7 is 7, which is bigger than 3. So that gives me negative 4 over 8. Or negative 1/2, okay? Should be a negative right there. Negative 1/2. All right. So now let's try a couple of those, or have you try a couple of those. So try those, see what you do, and then come back and let's see how you did, okay? All right, let's see how you did. So they both have the same denominator of 6. So we can write that over 6. And then it would just be 5 plus 4. 5 plus 4 is 9. So that's 9 over 6. Now, we need to simplify that down. So 6 can go into 9 one time. And then that leaves me with a remainder of 3. So that's 3 over 6. Now that 3 over 6 could be simplified down. So that would be 1, 3 goes into 1 one time, and 3 goes into 6 two times. So 1 and 1/2. Okay? Let's see how you did on 4/7 plus a negative 6/7. Again, we have the same denominator. So we keep the denominator of 7, and then it would be 4 plus a negative 6. Well, 4 plus a negative 6 is going to give me a negative 2 over 7. Different signs, we subtract and keep the sign of the larger absolute value. So negative 2/7. All right. So now we have another example here. It's 1 and 2/9 plus 3 and 4/9. We are to write this in simplest terms. Okay. So what we can do is we can take the whole numbers, the 1 and the 3, and we can move them together to add together. And then we take the fraction part of the mixed number and put them together to add together. So we're just grouping things differently, okay? Well, 1 plus 3 is 4, and they have the same denominator. So we keep the denominator of 9, and we add 2 plus 4, and 2 plus 4 is 6. So that gives me 4 and 6/9. 6 ninths can be simplified by 3. 3 goes into 6 2, and 3 goes into 9 3. So we end up with 4 2/3. Okay? All right, let's see how we can do this here. So let's do this one together. We have 1 3/4, and we have 4 3/4. So we take our whole numbers, our 1 and our 4, and group them together. And then we can take our 3/4 plus our 3/4 and group those together. 4 plus 1 is 5. And 3/4 and 3/4, we keep the 4 in our denominator, and 3 plus 4 is 6. So that gives me 5 6/4. And 6/4, we take a look at that, and we can actually change that to 1 1/2. So that would be 5 plus 1 1/2, which would give me 6 1/2. Okay, so this one kind of got a little bit tricky. When we ended up adding the fractions together, we got 6/4. And so when we simplify that, that's 1 1/2. So we still want to add that to our whole number of 5. That would give us 6 1/2. All right. So let's take a look. Here's 2 more that you guys can try. Come back and see how you did. All right, let's see how you did. So we have 3 plus 8, and we have 2/5 plus 1/5. 8, 9, 10, 11 plus 3/5 is going to give me 11 3/5. Okay, and that one would be done. And then on the next one, you would have -2 plus a -4. And then you would have over here, let's group those together. Then you would have over here with our fractions, you would have 3/7 plus 5/7. Okay? And then I would have -6, same sign, add, keep the sign. And here I have 8/7. Okay? With these being 8/7, that would simplify down to 1 1/7, because 7 goes into 8 one times with a remainder of 1. And don't forget, this whole thing is going to be, since they're both negative, we're adding 2 negatives, the answer is going to be negative. So we have 6 plus 1 would be -7, and our fraction would be -7 1/7. Okay? All right. So these would be, we could put negatives on those, and that way it'd keep it all straight for you. All right. Now we're going to talk about subtracting like fractions. So the rule for subtracting fractions with like denominators is similar to the rule for addition. So the key concept here says to subtract fractions with like denominators, you subtract the numerators and write the difference over the denominator. So very, very similar to addition. You have 4/9 minus 3/9. Again, we both have the same denominator, so we keep the 9th. And 4 minus 3, which would be 1, so it would give me 1/9. Okay? And if you looked at the number line, again, you would go over 4/9, back 3/9, and leaves you at 1/9. All right, let's take a look at an example. We have 3/8 minus 5/8. We need to write this in simplest form. So 3/8 minus 5/8, that would simply just be 3 minus 5. Keep the denominator of 8 because it's the same denominator. 3 minus 5, that would be the same as saying 3 plus the negative 5. So it's opposite signs. We subtract and keep the sign of the larger. So absolute value. So that would be a negative 2/8. Or 2 goes into 2 one time, 2 goes into 8 4 times. So negative 1/4. All right? So let's take a look. We have 5/15 minus 10/15. So again, we would take 5 minus 10 over the denominator, which both of them are 15, so over 15. Now when we did this, that is going to give me, negative 5 over 15, which would give me negative 1/3, okay? Because 5 goes into 5 one time, 5 goes into 15 3 times, all right? And again, 5 minus 10, 10 is the largest absolute value, so it's going to be a negative number. All right, so we have 3/9 minus 4/9. So again, 3 minus 4 over the denominator, they're the same, so I can subtract, so it'd be 9. And then 3 minus 4 would be negative 1 over 9, and that would be the answer, negative 1/9. Now on 3C, again, 7/8 minus 3/8. I take and subtract the numerators, keep the denominator because they're the same. I just keep it. 7 minus 3 is 4. 4 over 8, which we could simplify that down. 4 goes into 4 one time. 4 goes into 8 two times. So my final answer is 1/2. Okay? All right. So now we're going to talk about using mixed numbers. And mixed numbers, when you subtract, can get a little confusing, okay? So we are to evaluate x minus y when x is 3 1/4 and y is 1 3/4. So all we're doing is plugging in what we know for x and y. So that gives us 3 1/4 minus 1 3/4. All right, but what you want to look at is that 1/4 is less than 3/4. Okay, so we have to rename or reconfigure what 3 1/4 is before we subtract. Okay, we want that 1/4 larger. So how we would do that is we could take a look at these blocks, for example. And this would be 1, 2, 3, and then this would represent the 1/4. Okay, so that's our 3 1/4. Well, what we can do is we can chop up the third one into 4 different units, which is what we're doing here. Now we can count them. We have 1, 2, and instead of 1/4, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5/4. Okay? And the way you can look at that too is if I simplified that down, that would be equal to 1/4. All right. So 4/4 plus 1/4 would be 5/4. All right. So now we know that 2 5/4 is equal to 3 1/4. So we're going now to write that in there. So 2 5/4 minus 1 3/4. And now we can do it the same way. We can have 2 minus 1, which is going to give us 1. And then we have 5/4 minus 3/4. That would give us 5 minus 3 over 4, which is 2/4. So then that's where we get the 1 2/4. And then that simplified down to 1 1/2. Okay? Now, let's take a look at how that looks in an actual problem that we work, or that we could work, okay? So we have x minus y equals x equals 7 1/3 and y equals 5 2/3. We're going to write this in simplest form. So we just plug in what we know. So we plug in 7 1/3 for the x and 5 2/3 in for the y. And we have 7 1/3 minus 5 2/3. Okay? So again, we take a look and this 2/3 is bigger than 1/3. So we have to rename, we have to change it around. Okay? So we can take 1 from the 7 and change it to 6. And we can add 3/3 to the 1/3, and that becomes 4/3. Okay? So then we have 6 4/3. Now we can go ahead and do our subtraction. So 6 minus 5 is going to give me 1. And then 4 minus 2 over my denominator of 3 is going to give me my 2/3. So 1 2/3. Okay? All right, let's work one together here. We have x minus y when x is 9/8 and y equals 5/8. So for x, we're going to put 9 3/8 in. And for y, we're going to put 5 5/8. Okay, now take a look. That 5/8 is bigger than my 3/8. Since it's bigger, I have to change this 3/8. So I can change the 9 to an 8, and then I'm going to, and I'll just write over here on the side, I'm going to take that 3/8 and I'm going to add an 8/8, because that's the same as 1. That's where we're getting the 8 to the 9, okay, or the 9 to the 8. And then that's going to give me 11/8. So 8 11/8 is the same as 9 3/8. And now we can subtract our 5 5/8 from that, okay? So we have 8 minus 5 plus 11 minus 5/8, okay? So this is going to give me 3, and 11 minus 5 would be 6, so that would be 6/8. And now we could simplify that down because 2 goes into 6 3 times and 2 goes into 8 4 times. So 3 3/4 would be my answer. All right. All right, so let's take a look at a word problem. We have LaShawn has 5 1/8 yards of ribbon to border scrapbook pages. If she uses 1 7/8 yards on one page, how much ribbon is left? So we know how much ribbon she has and how much ribbon she will use, okay? So she has 5 1/8 yards of ribbon, and she's going to use 1 7/8 of that. So all we have to do is subtract 1 7/8 from 5 1/8. So again, we have that problem where 7/8 is larger than 1/8. So we have to increase that. So we drop the 5 to a 4, and we add 8/8 to the 1/8, which becomes 9/8. Okay? Now we can subtract. 4 minus 1 is 3. Then 9 minus 7 is 2, and we keep our denominator of 8, and we have 3 2/8. Now we can simplify that 2/8 down because 2 goes into 2 one time and 2 goes into 8 4 times. And now we have 3 1/4. So LaShawn has 3 1/4 yards of ribbon remaining. Okay? And since 3 1/2 is close to 3, the answer is reasonable. And where they would got that from is just 1 7/8 is close to 2. So 5 minus 2 would be 3. Okay? All right. So car racing. The Daytona International Speedway is one of the longest tracks used in NASCAR races. It is 2 2/4 miles long. Richmond International Speedway is 3/4 miles long. How much longer is Daytona Speedway than Richmond Speedway? So all I have to do is take 2 2/4 and subtract 3/4 from that. And that will tell me how long the Richmond Speedway is, or how much longer the Daytona Speedway is from the Richmond Speedway. So again, 3/4, the 3 is larger than the 2. So we have to take 1 from the 2, and that becomes 1. And we have to add 4/4 to the 2/4, and that becomes 6/4. Now we can subtract 3/4 from that. 1 minus, there's nothing in front of there, so that's just 1, or 1 minus 0 is 1. 6 minus 3 is 3, and we keep the same denominator of 4. So 1 3/4, okay? All right. Now let's look at algebraic functions, or fractions, sorry. Algebraic fractions can be added and subtracted just like numerical fractions. So it says to find 5b over 12 plus 3b over 12. Well, they both have a 12 in the denominator, so I can add those. And 5b and 3b are like terms, so I can add those. So I keep the denominator of 12, and the numerator, 5b plus 3b, we add the coefficients and keep the variable. 5 plus 3 is 8, keep the variable of b, we have 8b over 12. Now if we look at the numbers, we have 8 and 12. Well, 4 will go into 8 2 times, and 4 will go into 12 3 times, so we have 2b over 3. All right. We have a couple here to do. Let's do the first one together. We have y over 8 plus 5y over 8. They both have the same denominator, so we can add the fractions, and the variables are the same, like terms, so we can add those too. Don't forget that if you have a variable with nothing in front of it, the coefficient is 1. So we would have 1y plus 5y over 8, which would be 6y over 8. And then we can simplify by 2. 2 goes into 6 3 times, and 2 goes into 8 4 times. So 3y over 4. Okay? Now you try the next two, see what you get, and then come back and we'll work them. All right, let's see what you got. So they have the same denominator, so I can subtract them. So it would be 3x minus 5x over 7. And they're like terms, so I can subtract the coefficients and keep the variable. 3 minus 5 would be negative 2x over 7. So negative 2x over 7. And for the third one, we have x over 5 plus 4x over 5. They both have the same denominators, so I can add the numerators. They have like terms of x. Remember, this would be 1x. So 1 plus 4 is 5. That gives me 5x over 5. And these would simplify down. 5 goes into 5 one time, and 5 goes into 5 one time. That leaves me x over 1, or just simply x. Okay? If you got any questions, let me know. Have a good day.